Mr. Carbone, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Mr. Wright. How about yourself?
Good, good to chat with you again, man. We did a recording pretty recently, and there's been a lot happening in the marketplace, and we didn't want to wait another 30 days to put out a video because some of this stuff is literally like game-changing type of things that are happening in the crypto space.
Yeah,
So wanted to jump on with you real quick and kind of give everyone an update on what's going on. We've got some really interesting topics to talk about today. I want to talk about the Genius Act, which Trump just signed. It has a lot to do with stable coins. He just signed an executive order saying Bitcoin and other crypto can now be in 401ks, which is massive. That's a 12, $13 trillion market right there. I know you've been doing a lot of research lately on Bitcoin dominance, so wanted to chat a little bit about that and just kind of giving everyone an update on, what's going on with the fund, what's going on with the market, and kind of where we see things going from here. Does that
definitely.
sound good?
We had to do a follow-up from last video, especially since a lot of the things that we talked about ended up coming true.
Yeah, we've been
It,
right a
it,
lot.
it's too, I mean, just to ignore a follow-up video wouldn't be doing anybody a service. So, you know,
Yeah,
I figured might as well do it right now before things get really crazy, for sure.
perfect timing. So let's talk about the Genius Act real quick because this is really interesting stuff.
It is. It's
So for those of you that don't know, anytime the Congress or the president passes a new act, it's usually an acronym for something. So this one stands for the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. So basically, what this is, it's a first of its kind regulation. This has never happened before in history. Um, it requires a couple of things. So it requires stablecoin issuers to maintain 100% reserve backing by highly liquid assets such as US dollar or treasury bills. So, in other words, what that means is the larger the stablecoin market, the more liquidity flows into the government, into treasuries, and into dollars, which means asset prices rise. It does a couple other cool things. It prohibits misleading markets or misleading marketing. So claims like stablecoins are backed by the US government or are federally issued, things like that. So that'll help with that. And then it aligns the federal and the state stablecoin regulations because right now they're kind of all over the place.
Mhm.
So doing that is really going to help cut down on anti-money laundering stuff. It's going to cut down on shady marketing, and it's really going to set the framework for registered investment advisors and institutional capital start using these things on a regular and consistent basis.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your thoughts because it's a lot of information to give somebody at once, but it will certainly change the game in terms of crypto. So where do you see this going? What kind of capital do you see flowing into stable coins, and what does that mean for Bitcoin and other crypto?
Well, if anybody that is watching this for the second time saw our past video, we talked about getting regulatory clarity in the crypto space. And not 3 weeks after that video, Trump announced Crypto Week. And during that week, we saw a bunch of acts get passed through Congress. And one of them being the Genius Act, the other one, the Clarity Act, the Anti-CBDC Act, which prohibits the central bank from making a digital currency. But the Genius Act is great because if anybody's been in this industry for more than a couple years, you remember Terra Luna a few years ago, and it was not too long after Biden got elected, and Operation Choke Point 2.0 came into the crypto space, where a lot of people were they didn't have the ability to operate. And Austin and I, our fund actually had a bank account that closed on us, and we had to liquidate our funds from this account because it was in a crypto environment, and it sucked. We couldn't do business for like 6 months, and we were really just stranglehold. And the Genius Act and everything that Trump's doing right now is providing clarity. It's providing a regulatory framework. The Clarity Act is basically taking different crypto assets and saying, Is it a security or is it a commodity? And it's providing a framework for all of us to be able to operate on. And the really important thing about the Genius Act is if we look at the rise of the crypto market, and we talked about this last time, is when liquidity is injected into the market, asset prices will increase. And what the Genius Act is going to do is it's going to inject a ton of liquidity into the crypto space. Right now, Terra Luna, it was an algorithmic stable coin and it lost its peg to the dollar.
Yeah.
And so people had millions. It was a multi-billion-dollar stable coin. And when that lost its peg to the dollar, just imagine if you have $1 million of stable coins into the crypto market and you think it's safe and you're just waiting for dips to happen so you can move that and buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana on the dip. And all of a sudden that $1 million turns into $10,000. You'd be freaking out.
Yeah.
And the reason why is they lied. Do Kwon was the individual that started Luna, and he had like an international warrant out for his arrest, and he finally had to turn himself in because he was claiming that stable coin was backed, and it wasn't. He said it was backed by Bitcoin Treasury Reserve. He said it was backed by this, and then all of a sudden everybody was left with their hands out, and they didn't have anything. And then the crypto market crashed, and then FTX happened, and all that crazy stuff. That all happened right around the same time. And what the Genius Act's going to do is prevent anything like that from ever happening again.
Yeah, that's huge.
And we don't have to. I've been looking a lot into this, and I mentioned this on the last call. So it's no coincidence, in my opinion, that some of this stuff is happening. And this might be a little conspiratorial, but you have World Liberty Financial, which is 60% owned by the Trump family.
Yep.
Donald Trump isn't on paper there, but 75% of all revenues will go to the Trump organization. And they have their entire framework. They've grown into a couple $1 million stablecoin to a $2 billion stablecoin relatively quickly. And all of their stablecoins are fully backed by the US dollar, US treasuries, and cash equivalent assets. That sounds a lot like the regulatory framework of the Genius Act. So it's really, I don't think that's a coincidence right there that all of a sudden this USD1 is going to fall into the framework that's being put together by the White House.
Yeah, it's funny because, the Trump critics point at this and say, this is, there's conflicts of interest here. He's involved in crypto and then he's making laws about crypto. And I mean, love him or hate him, you really got to kind of look at yourself and your own portfolio and really manage that because you can't control what other people are doing. And the bottom line is we have a president in the White House who's very pro crypto and has 3.5 more years in office. And he's starting to pass regulations to make it more mainstream. So if you are not bullish right now, I don't know if you ever will be. This is about as good as it gets.
We couldn't ask. This is something that any crypto investor, whether you're on this side of the political spectrum or this side, this is what we've been asking for years and years and years. And we have to embrace it. We have to embrace reality and deal with it. And thankfully for our reality right now, we have everything that's supporting the thing that me and you have been promoting for so long. And we have to be grateful and we have to be in the right position.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Well, that's good. That's really helps clarify what the Genius Act is and why it's so good. Let's talk about the other big news, which is Trump signed an executive order. I don't know if it's officially law yet or not, but I read he signed an executive order for crypto to now be crypto and other alternative assets, private assets to be allowed in 401k plans.
Mm-hmm.
And so this might be even bigger than the whole stablecoin thing because 401k plans, 99% of them are managed by RIAs, registered investment advisors. Yep. Those registered investment advisors who work for Fidelity, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, all these different firms, they are not allowed to recommend Bitcoin to their clients up until now.
Mhm.
So what's going to happen is you have this 401k market, which is massive. We just set one up at one of my companies. So I'm now rolling this out to where all of my employees will be able to have the option to invest in a 401k. And the timing is interesting because right now I'm working with the company who's setting this up, and I'm picking the list of assets that they'll have access to. And it's
Yeah.
going to be very, very extensive. But when I was having these conversations 3 weeks ago, Bitcoin or the Bitcoin ETF was not one of those options. It will be now. So now you have a market that's, I think, almost $13 trillion that's tied up in mostly S&P 500 stocks and bonds, this kind of stuff, managed by RIAs. And now people are going to be able to buy Bitcoin and hold it within their 401ks.
Mhm.
What do you think that's going to do to the price of Bitcoin, and how much inflows do you think is like a realistic thinking? Is it 1%? Is it 5%? Is it 10? What are your thoughts on that?
I think 1% is going to be the short-term target that everybody should be prepared for. But what we're going to see, and this is just my opinion, and again, this isn't investment advice to everybody watching, but what I think is going to happen is you're going to see a spike. So we saw, the market was actually downtrending after August 1st. If you guys saw that, there was kind of a pullback the last week of July, and it was kind of on this downward trend. And then crypto week happened, the bills got passed, and then the 401k news announced, and it just did a V-shaped recovery, which we always love to see. And I think that is because of this 401k news. So the smart people are just trying to get in front of it. So the spikes that we're seeing in the short term are all speculative. So we won't see a supply shock until this announcement goes into law, just like you said at the beginning. And once it does, then you have a few more hoops for it to cross. So if we see that go into law, I would be lucky. I would be very excited if that went into law and took effect before the end of the year. If that, and I think Trump is smart enough to want to get that to a position because, if we look at what he's trying to accomplish and whether it's for the good of the country or his own ego, I don't know, and I don't care. I think he wants to see Bitcoin go parabolic because he can say this happened under my watch. So I think he's going to be very motivated to make sure this goes into law as quickly as possible, but we won't see a supply suffocation until that happens.
Right.
Right now, I think the other day you were talking about there's 1.5 million Bitcoin left to be mined or something. It
Yeah.
changes every day. So less than 2 million Bitcoin are left to be mined in the next 120 or 115 years. So it'll be done. So no more Bitcoin mining after the year 2140. So 1.5 million Bitcoin are left to be mined. And so just imagine 1% of the 401k market goes after Bitcoin that is currently being traded on the markets, but there's just not enough Bitcoin on the exchange right now for them to satisfy the need. And so when
Yeah.
they start gobbling it up and they start buying it from retail that wants to cash out, it's going to create a supply suffocation like never before. It's going to be like we saw what happened with the ETF. When this happens with the RIAs, it's going to go very quickly. And then if you stack the government's goal to get to 1 million Bitcoin in the strategic reserve, I mean, we just have no clue what that's going to do to price.
Yeah. That's another $100 billion just at today's prices, let
Yeah,
alone the future.
absolutely. And just the liquidity that's going to enter and the opportunity that's going to be is unprecedented. So all the stuff that we talked about 3, 4 weeks ago in our video, we didn't think that was going to happen until the end of the year
Yeah.
or even in the next year or so. And look, it's happened in 3 weeks.
It's
That's
crazy.
absolutely insane. It's like you know what you're talking about or something.
Sometimes. Sometimes I got a pretty good batting average. But no, this is good, and I like kind of the spacing of it. Like right now, you like you said, we've got a little bit of hype, mostly from speculation, people trying to get ahead of this.
Mhm.
We got Q3 and Q4 coming up, which are typically the best times of year for crypto anyway. That's usually when we see booms.
Yep.
And then we roll into 2026 when they're going to start being introduced in 401k plans. Institutional capital is going to start flowing in. I mean, even today, if you look at the majority of the capital in the world is institutional sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, things like that. They own almost no Bitcoin. So wait till they start putting money in 2026, 2027, 2028. And I'm going to stand by my target. I think Bitcoin will be over $1 million a coin by 2029 after the next halving.
Okay. All right. We got some more bets on the table. I'll have to come up with my amount then, and then we'll have another friendly wager.
Yep, that's my prediction.
100%.
Talk to me a little bit about Bitcoin dominance. I think we hear that term a lot. What does that mean, and what are you kind of seeing in the market right now?
Yeah, this is extremely important. Whether it's one of our investors or anybody that's just curious watching this right now, Bitcoin works in 4-year cycles. And just to give a quick 1-minute clip notes on that. So Bitcoin is mined. And so every 10 minutes, a block of transactions is filled up, which are Bitcoin transactions. And when that block is filled, a Bitcoin miner will create and solve an algorithm to basically create a new block. And it's called a blockchain because one block connects to the other. And so every time a miner solves that algorithm, they'll be rewarded in Bitcoin. And so following each 4-year cycle, so every 4 years, that reward of Bitcoin to that miner gets cut in half, which means the amount of Bitcoin that's flooding the market becomes less and less and less. So within that 4-year cycle, you see Bitcoin rise. And then after that, you see other altcoins rise, and then you see a retracement and consolidation, and then it gets ready for another 4-year halving. We talked a little bit about this in the last video. I suggest anybody refer to that so we don't waste any more time. But during this 4-year cycle, and the reason why I wanted to cover that is you have what's called Bitcoin dominance that fluctuates quite rapidly. So right now, so you take the multi-trillion-dollar crypto market. Bitcoin is accounting for about 60% of its value. Okay, it's actually at about 59.9% right now. So and then the other 40% is divided into Ethereum and everything else. Okay, and that's just the way that they measure it. It could change in the future as other altcoins become more prevalent. But just to rewind to 2020 and 2021, when you saw Bitcoin reach its peak, and I'm talking around $69,000, 60,000 to 69, Bitcoin dominance was over 60%. Okay. It actually got up to about 65%, maybe 67% at its highest. And then Ethereum's dominance was at like 8-9%. It was and then the rest was all the other altcoins. So, and then what happened is you saw Bitcoin's dominance drop from 60% down to 40%. And then Ethereum's dominance went from 9%, 8% to 19, 20%. And then the remaining being with the rest of the altcoins. So right now, Bitcoin dominance at 59%. It's actually down about 4% in the last 30 days. So we saw Bitcoin dominance when it was at 123 a token, it was at 65%, which is usually the peak of every cycle. I'm not going to say that that's the peak of this cycle, but I'm saying that's very high in comparison to what it's been in previous all-time highs and halving cycles. So one of the things that we have to take a look at is if you want to really be prepared, you always want to be, and it's funny because 60% dominance, and we suggest you have your portfolio 60% Bitcoin, 65% Bitcoin. And the reason why is for that exact reason, is we want to make sure that you're capitalizing on the biggest gains with the lowest risk, and that's always going to be Bitcoin and crypto. But what ends up happening in every other cycle, not to say it's going to happen in the future, but it's something we're looking after, is there's going to be a point when liquidity enters the market more, and then that dominance starts to vary, and maybe it goes down from 60% to 50 to 55%. And then you see Ethereum, because Ethereum is up 12%. It's up to 12% dominance, up like 5%, 6% in the last month. It's really, really growing. And I've correct me if I'm wrong, but last time we did this call, I think Ethereum was trading for like 3,000 or 2,800 or something. And it just hit 4,000 today for the first time in like a year.
Yeah, it's like a 30% since our last call.
Yeah, and as you see that Ethereum dominance increasing, you're seeing it stabilize the rest of the market. And just like what we said in the last call, is Bitcoin hits dominance and then Ethereum follows and everything else follows after that. So what we could see is if Ethereum gets to its traditional post-Bitcoin dominance to 19, 20% dominance, we could see Ethereum hit $7,000 relatively quickly, meaning like within the next 3 to 4 months.
This is what the crypto bros call altcoin season.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, just like what we talked about last call.
Altcoin season is on the horizon.
Hmm. And
So
then
if you're a new investor today, should you be buying alts? And if so, which ones and how much of your portfolio should you put in that?
if I was a new investor, not being financial advice, I would do the same thing that we did before. I would take 100%. If you have $100, I would buy $60 to $65 in Bitcoin. And then the rest I would put in Ethereum, Solana, XRP, maybe a little Binance and some moonshot projects. That's what I do, with the majority of it going into the big projects like Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. But as let's say Ethereum's dominance goes from 12% to 20%, you're going to have that portfolio go off balance. So what you do is you sell just a portion of your profits and you move that back into Bitcoin or cash.
Mm.
And then that way, if it keeps going, you're going to continue growing more and more and more. But you want to keep your portfolio, if you want it to be strategically performing well all the time, you want to keep it balanced like that. That way, because you don't want Solana and XRP to shoot up and then have you not take any profits and then have it crash 70%.
Yeah.
It's worse to lose that money than to never make it at all. I can promise everybody listening to that right now. So it's better to start shaving off profits and keep that balance while you still have a portion of your assets continuing to make money. Because if Ethereum does go to $10,000, $15,000 per token, that's great. You're still you'll be taking some profits, but you'll still be able to participate in that upside.
Yep, 100%.
Having a portion of it go up. So we just don't want anybody watching this, ourselves or anybody else, to put all their money and a big portion of it in these alts and then have them retrace 80%, because they will. I promise you they will. Some of these alts will.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually read something this morning. I think it was from Anthony Pompliano regarding volatility, and it was saying that the days of extreme Bitcoin volatility are essentially over.
Yeah.
So we're seeing less and less swings. Back in the day, Bitcoin would go up and it would drop 85%, and then it would go up 4,000%. It was just extremely volatile. And right now, that number's kind of like this. Like it's fairly stable and it's kind of hovering around the same marks. Do you think we're going to see the same kind of extreme volatility in alts moving forward, or do you think that's coming down as well?
I think we will. I don't think they'll be quite as drastic as they have before, like Solana losing 95% of its value last cycle. I don't think we'll see that, but yeah, I think we'll see the alts because alts are held more by retail, and retail like to take profits. Bitcoin is now more like a corporate treasury strategy, more so than a retail that's taking profits. So my message that I say to everybody right now is don't ever sell your Bitcoin for any reason whatsoever. Like you should not be selling your Bitcoin. Like there's no taking profits with Bitcoin. There's no saying I'm going to cash in with Bitcoin. It's save that for life. Use it as a store of value to build your wealth. And when you get to the point where you actually want to participate in the gains that those Bitcoins have had over time, you take out loans against your Bitcoin.
Exactly.
That's the way that wealthy and smart people are going to do it. With the altcoins, you definitely want to take profits because those swings are so great. And it's such a volatile thing, but not Bitcoin anymore. You really want to make sure that you're stacking sats, putting as much money, should be saving in Bitcoin, and just stack that as much as you possibly can.
Yep, 100% agree. Okay, last topic here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll keep this one short for everybody.
Okay, so the total value of projects that are built on Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Binance, BNB coin, compared to their relative market caps. Talk to me a little bit about that.
So I wanted to talk about this, especially after going over what we just said with Bitcoin dominance, altcoins, and Ethereum. And it's kind of how to extrapolate value from a crypto project, because there essentially is no intrinsic value. We can't sit there and find that out like the way Warren Buffett does with the company, because it doesn't produce a product, and we can't calculate profits or anything like that. So we have to look at other metrics. Like with Bitcoin, we look at the strength of the network. We look at SHA-256. We look at the decentralization. When you're investing in Bitcoin, you're investing in the network and its security. So with Ethereum and second and third generation blockchains, these are blockchains where you have built a blockchain and then other people can come and build their own projects on top of that blockchain, and it's permissionless, so they can build whatever they want in any way, shape, or form without any type of governance whatsoever. So what I looked at too is Ethereum being the first one of these tokens to really ever do so. And I also wanted to talk real quickly about XRP, because a lot of people have been asking me questions about XRP. Now, I'm just going to say right now, I don't know about you, Austin, but I'm not an XRP hater at all. Okay. However, I'm a little skeptical. Okay. And this is the reason why. So you got the CEO of Ripple, right? And he was a very, very, very influential man. And this gentleman who owns, or the CEO of Ripple, he is largely responsible for the success of XRP. He really is. He is an amazing negotiator. He is a great marketer. He's a great promoter. He's an early adopter. Like, he's a very smart man for sure. But if it wasn't for him really promoting, like, XRP wouldn't be doing as well because of his influence. So two things about that really, really just give me a red flag. Not to mean that we won't have exposure, because we do, but 50% of the supply of XRP is held by Ripple.
Yeah.
50% of the supply. That should scare everybody. And they periodically dump and sell that onto the open market.
Yeah.
So that alone lets me know that it's not to say that they would, but they could at any point sell 5, 10, 15% of the supply if they wanted to raise capital for whatever reason that they need to do it. And that could really hurt current holders.
Yeah, they basically, what that means is they have the option to manipulate that market.
Yes.
Whereas no one has the option to manipulate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Even the biggest holder in the world.
Yeah.
If they were to go out and sell, Michael Saylor, for example, if he went out and sold all his Bitcoin, it'd be a small shock, but not that much. People would eat that up.
Yeah.
So
like Satoshi owns 1.1 million tokens, and that's all from mining. He's never spent one token that he's actually mined. And even if you take 1.1 million and you divide that by 19.5 million tokens circulating, it's like 6-7% at the most. So, yeah. I mean, even if he crashed the token or tried to by selling it all, it wouldn't go to zero. XRP or anybody that holds 50% of the supply of anything has the ability to play God anytime they want. And that worries me. And another thing is the entire XRP ecosystem. Yes, high transaction speed, low use of energy. They want to be the solution to cross-border payments internationally. Now, if the Ripple CEO wasn't pushing for this so hard with his connections in the White House, with Donald Trump, and with international organizations, that would never happen. So a lot of XRP holders are banking that XRP's blockchain is going to be the foundation of the financial system worldwide, including derivatives, trading platforms, and everything, which is like, a quadrillion billion friggin', I sound like Biden right now. It's a huge dollar amount. If that happens, great. We're not huge XRP holders, but we'll definitely benefit. But what if that doesn't happen?
Exactly.
What happens to XRP? And this is another thing. So when you have blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Binance, these are all blockchains. You can build projects on top of that. I looked up some numbers here today. So Ethereum, the projects that are built on Ethereum's blockchain are valued, minus Ethereum, take that out, are valued at $785 billion.
Okay.
$785 billion. Ethereum's market cap now, as of today, is $488 billion. So there is 1.6 times more value built on Ethereum than what Ethereum's even worth.
That's interesting.
Okay, which is awesome. That means that there's a lot of value in the ecosystem. If you take 785 billion plus 488 billion, that's what? $1.3 trillion, just below $1.3 trillion in value that's tied up in the Ethereum ecosystem. That's pretty impressive.
It is, yeah. So that's essentially like if I started a cement company to build foundations for houses, and I went out and bought $100 million worth of cement, and then I sold that to people, and they built enough houses that were now worth $200 billion. That value has been created because of my foundation. That's the same thing.
100%. Exactly. And then, so I'll get to XRP last. Solana, this is even more impressive. Actually, I'll go Binance first. So Binance, they have about $400 billion of value built on top of their blockchain. So it's not as much as Ethereum, but their market cap is $110 billion as of today. So that means they have 3.6 times more value built on their blockchain than they do than what their market cap is worth of their token. Wow. So what this could say, so this is my thinking. If we're looking at intrinsic value, like Warren Buffett, when he looked at Geico and selling for $1 a share, and he saw what they're producing, he's like, the intrinsic value, that's the price to earnings is trading so low that I can't lose by doing that. And I look at the ratio of 1.6, and I'm thinking maybe Binance, maybe Solana is undervalued.
That's an interesting way to look at it. It's like you said, it's like a low price to earnings ratio with stocks. That typically means the stocks are discounted, on sale, or considered cheap.
Exactly. So, the Ethereum dominance thing I'm taking a look at, but I look at the value, and this went back to what we were saying before, is there has to be, in order for these ratios to balance out, we need some new projects, one that we're invested in. But we need some new projects built on Ethereum to go to multi-billion dollars. We need a lot of those to happen in order for that balance to actually start to even out again. But Solana is really impressive. $352 billion built on top of the Solana ecosystem, and their market cap is 95 billion. So they have a 3.7 time value to market cap ratio. And then if you go over to XRP, and I know XRP doesn't have a lot of projects built on it. However, there's only $250 million of projects built on XRP, and the market cap is 196 billion. And a lot of people might argue, well, XRP isn't that type of blockchain. But the biggest argument with XRP is that the entire foundation of the financial system worldwide is going to be built on top of that. But right now, it looks like to me that you have like somebody that's trying to squat 1,000 pounds for the first time without a belt that's never squatted more than 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So how are you going to fit a $30 trillion market on top of a blockchain when you're only used to fitting 250 million on it right now?
Yeah, that's going to be tough.
And not to say it wouldn't be possible. I'm not trying to be negative, but the most likely scenario wouldn't be an XRP for that. It would be something that already has the capability of holding hundreds of billions of dollars of value without skipping a beat.
Like Ethereum or Solana.
Like Ethereum, Solana, Binance. Never going to be Binance because it's Chinese. But and so I look at that too, and these are just some things that I take into consideration when I cautiously approach a project. Yeah. So XRP, am I a hater? No, but I can't ignore some of these things, and I'm not going to sit there because everybody and their mother now has come out to be like, "What about XRP? What about XRP?" Patrick Bet David did a poll on X a couple months ago, and Gary Cardone and him got in this little fight. It was so funny, but they believe all the followers think that XRP is the best investment over Bitcoin. Like I'm talking like 85 to 15% ratio.
Wow.
And I guarantee most of these people are not versed in crypto. Some of them are. And XRP army is very, very big. But if we're looking at statistically what's going to be the most likely thing to happen, I don't know. That's betting a lot on it.
Yeah. Buy Bitcoin, people.
Buy Bitcoin. Funnel your profits into Bitcoin. Hold moon bags just in case.
Just in case. Yeah. Or what you could do is you could invest with us at Pivotal Point Capital. So we have fun. Yeah, we've had a lot of people since the last couple of videos we've put out, reach out with questions. How do I invest with you guys? How does this work? We're a typical hedge fund model. So 80-20. So we keep only 20% of any profits that we earn you over an 8% hurdle rate. So we got to earn you at least 8% on your money before we make anything. And then we split profits 80-20. We do it on a quarterly basis. And then there's a one-time management fee of 2% a year, which is very standard for all hedge funds. So we've got a couple cool features in there. We've got a really, really killer portfolio. We are crushing it year after year after year. We're going on almost 3 years now. And we've been through down markets, sideways markets, and up markets, and the fund is right on track with our target IRR of about 35 to 40% a year. So
Yep.
if anybody's interested in investing with us, tell them where to go, Corey.
Pivotalpointinvesting.com. Go ahead and hit contact us, and you can contact our admin group, and Austin and I will respond to that for sure. The exciting thing is with this great news that's coming, the markets have responded positively, but not even close to what they will do when everything takes off. But our fund, especially after this last month, Ethereum's doing well. Our moonshot portfolio is crushing it right now. And, we just need a Solana to be over 200 again for us to really be in a good place. But everything else is working really well. And, we're gonna end the year in a great position, just like we did the year before and the year before last.
Yeah, I think so too. So if you're watching this and you're interested, drop us a comment below or go to pivotalpointinvesting.com, click on contact us, and either Corey or myself will reach out to you, help you with the onboarding process. It's super smooth, super easy to do. All right, good chatting with you as always, Corey, and we'll keep everybody abreast as the news continues to flow.
Absolutely. It might be more of these because news is coming fast. See you later, guys.
All right, see ya.
All right, bye.